What's the big difference between you and Janice Arnold Jones?
Right now it's clearly the Ryan budget. We just discussed that a little bit. I don't think it's a plan or a budget that anyone should have to live with. It hurts seniors, families, working families, the middle class. It turns Medicare into a voucher program and decimates Medicaid. Women's reproductive health choices, we are completely different about those policies. I want to fight to protect them and make sure that women are making those decisions with their physician, and that they have complete access to comprehensive health. And the other big difference really is the way in which we work in our experiences. And I'm a small business owner. I've engaged in the same kind of policy work, bipartisan, for 17 years, and I'm living those caregiving issues and single parenting issues, and I really understand what it's going to take to make sure that we don't hurt New Mexico families anymore, but we begin to build a productive future for them instead.
So let's take a little bit, take each of those steps, step by step. What would you say to people who are fiscal conservatives and are very concerned about the fiscal cliff that the country might be falling over?
We've got to get a budget passed, but the reason that we haven't gotten a budget, and that's going to require some shared sacrifices and some tough decisions in a variety of places, not just, deciding that you're going to turn Medicare over at its head and take it away from future generations and minimize it for folks who are using it today. But we can't get there in Congress because, in every budget discussion, it's come back to we won't pass a budget unless we completely defund Planned Parenthood or other programs that are, remember, the primary care health care clinics today for women. And the reason that they are is because women are poorer. Women are heads of household and are poorer, and that's their only access to health care. So we are going to have to make tough decisions, but I would do something very different than my opponent. I'd make sure that we are investing in infrastructure and buildings. Let's bring American jobs home. Let's make sure that we're making things here. Let's make sure that we're building things here, put Americans back to work, and then you're bringing money in as well as making sure that we're a bit more effective and lean where we need to be. Those are the kinds of shared sacrifices that I think New Mexicans are prepared to make.
You mentioned the Ryan budget and Medicare, although Ryan says it's not going to affect anyone who's over the age of 55, though. So is it fair to say
that you've got young people who are on disability today? It affects all of those folks. Remember also that Medicare is one of the largest payers, and so just like you do in any sort of prospective environment, it's knowing what that load looks like and who's going to be making those payments into the system. So turning Medicare over means that you've got less invested in a program for those folks who are already on it, because it's not just about what you're paying out, it's what kind of a system you're investing in. And we do debate about what kind of access that is. The more you do to cut Medicare, the thinner you make those access points for everybody who needs it, and the less expertise we have with that population, at the very same time when America has one of the fastest growing 80-plus populations in the world. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We do have to cut the costs in the program. But turning it into a voucher care program isn't the only way to do that by any stretch of the imagination, and I would fight so hard to make sure that we never do that. That's a promise that America needs to keep to its disabled adults and the families and seniors who are reliant on Medicare.
I remember when you announced your candidacy, it was your speech was you talk now about bipartisanship, but your speech at the time was pretty hard and bashed the Republicans pretty much, and the Tea Party people. Are you pivoting to be more bipartisan now that it's a general election?
No, it's not a pivot. In those remarks, I was very clear about the Tea Party. Extremism in Congress has got to go away. Who's in control of that extremism right now is the Tea Party, but it should not exist on either end. And the Republicans today, you've got many wonderful Republicans that did great things in this country. I can think of a couple presidents we just talked about at lunch today at an event. President Eisenhower and President Reagan, they couldn't be elected in Tea Party districts. This is a totally different issue where you've got individuals who are holding Congress hostage, who will not allow any compromise. Their statements are, We will not compromise. Government should fail before we should compromise in anything.
Are there
That's not.
Democrats on that?
If there
fall
are
into
any
that category
Democrats
too?
that aren't on that side of the equation, I think that they need to be held as accountable. This is a place where we have to be strategically finding solutions to this country's problems, and we have to be focused like a laser beam on making sure that the constituents in our districts are getting what they need to thrive. And that's my job, and you bet. I think that that means being clear about how I feel about what extremism is doing in this country, and being clear that I worked very successfully for 8 years across the aisle in New Mexico, and I worked very successfully across the aisle in Bernalillo County. And we didn't have anybody on the commission or anybody then in the New Mexico legislature who was trying to destroy government, who wouldn't compromise. We were all working hard to solve the problems of our constituents, and some of the best work I got to do was because Republicans in the New Mexico legislature were really working with me to get it done, and I'm very grateful still.
Michelle Lujan Grisham, thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
All right.